just gotta remember how to do that. There we are. There's our chat. There's our chat. Right there.
We are live, baby.
We're live. Look at that. No hiccups, no nothing.
It's still plenty early.
Who are we? Who are we?
Who that is?
Who that is? Who that?
Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Stephen. Let's look at the live chat here.
Good evening, Oldies Radio, Craig and Bo and John and.
Are they on? Is anybody on? Is it just us?
Nope. I was just saying, just in case.
Yeah.
Getting the pleasantries out of the way.
Getting those out of the way.
Watching. Look at us. There's 4 watching now.
Hey, there we go. We're live, baby. Hello.
Oh boy.
Hey,
Craig is
Craig.
here. Good evening. Good evening.
What's up, Craig? How is
Greg?
The bank?
Is that his band?
His bank, where he works at. He works at the bank.
Oh, I thought it was like his band was named The Bank. That'd be a cool name for a band. The Bank.
El Banco. Yeah, good evening. It's a good day here in the Berg. It's a little cold. 16 degrees, as you can see right down there. It's a balmy 16 degrees.
Ours is a crisp 47. Had to wear a jacket today. What's this nonsense?
Put the flip-flops away, Steve.
Yeah, it's for at least another couple of months.
Going back tomorrow after being on COVID vacation. Oh, ouch. Sorry.
Well, I hope you are okay and everybody else is okay.
Craig, thank you for posting 150 albums of all time. Did you see what I scored, Steve? I was like 80 something. I did.
Yeah. Craig and I were both locked in.
There was a few albums on there that I was just like, I did the same thing you did, Craig. If I didn't own it, I didn't say that I would go for it, so I didn't put it on the list. -20 tomorrow with wind chill in the morning. That is cold. That is cold, man. But yeah, we have a fun show tonight. I think I'm excited about this.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna take a trip in the Wayback Machine, and Steve, preparing for this show, I had a blast doing that.
Yeah. I remember you telling me.
Did you? I mean, I know that you said you got some things. You got some things to show.
Yeah.
Okay.
I found my old stash of magazines, not those magazines, but
your stash of your dad's magazines. What about those? Did you find those too?
I did not. No, I looked high and low, but unfortunately, there were none to be found. Unless you're talking about Newsweek. Other than that,
they were on some bush in the woods.
You know what? There was actually a thing, not to turn this into Smut Hour with Mark and Steve, but there was actually an article on the Facebook page, Dangerous Minds, written by Chris Bickle, who is a local filmmaker here, who also works at Papa Jazz Record Store. And he was like talking about
Papa Jazz.
Dude,
that place is it's place
happening.
They got their hand on the pulse of South Carolina right there for sure.
And he was talking about like of people of a certain age range finding material such as that in the woods. And it's like, did people drop it there? Was it placed there? Was it was hidden there, but there just seems to be an overflowing. Like that just seems to be like, if you're of a certain age range, like, hey, did you have, all the time we found it, but I suppose that's for another podcast.
the rite of passage. Yeah. That's
so,
for sure. So
welcome to the Smut Hour with Mark and Steve.
I'm glad that you
quickly turn this around.
That's a joke that went sideways. So yeah, so that's cool. I'm glad that you brought some reading material. Do you have any show and tell that's non-related to anything that we were gonna show?
I do.
On? Okay,
I do. I have a couple of things that I want. A couple of records I want to talk about. I guess I'll start with this one here. It's a couple records by this band, but it's the Ramones, and this is their infamous. I don't know about famous, but infamous album they did with Phil
Phil
Spector in
Spector, right?
1980. This is seems like it would be a good idea on paper,
Hmm.
but the songs are. Listen, I was very, very critical of this album when I first got it, and I still am. But I will say it's got the stuff like Danny Says and I Can't Make It on Time, which I think are two of the best Ramones songs in their entire catalog.
So
But it's got some real dingers on it too.
that's about what, like their fourth album? What number album is
That
that?
is their number four. Yeah, it's
Number
right
four?
after Road to.
Road to
No,
Ruin.
that was their fifth. There was a fifth.
Okay.
Road to Ruin was their fourth. This is their second with Marky. So this is album number five.
Album number five. Okay.
Yeah,
So they had been around for a little bit, and what the first Ramones album is 1976, right? Am I right?
76. Yeah,
76. Okay. So
and
yeah.
then you had and then I think you had Leave Home and Rocket Rush. I think they're both 77.
Okay.
And in 78 was Road to Ruin, and this, and well, yeah, the live album in 79, it's Alive, and then this is 80. So this is, I guess, their fifth studio album, their sixth album in their catalog, if you will.
So why did it not? What are your thoughts? Why did that not work with Phil Spector? What was
Uh,
besides him,
Pulling guns on
pulling
DD and
guns
things
on,
like
yeah,
that.
DD and Marky and all
uh,
that.
Allegedly, I guess we should clear that up in case the estate wants to try to. But those
Right.
are all pretty well documented. Those
Right.
stories. It's the songs are there. I just think the production doesn't fit. There's extra layers to it. There's horns and there's in some of the songs, and there's guitar solos, which is really odd to have in a Ramones song. And just the wall of sound, just it may have fit them, but just not this capacity. So I think it was a good idea on paper, but just a very poor execution rather. But the other album I'm going to talk about is the follow up
Okay.
to this, where I think they did it right. This is Pleasant Dreams. This is probably my favorite Ramones album. Everything that is wrong about this album, they do right here. They wanted a pop rock record. They got that on this, and I think they did it in spades. And this was produced by Graham Goldman of
Okay.
10cc.
Right. Right.
So a little bit different direction, but I think the songwriting is stronger on this, and I also think that the production fits them a lot better. This is Pleasant Dreams was everything this was hyped to be.
So
So
as far as with the Ramones, they had, it looks like that one that you showed me there, the second one, right? That,
yes,
have they done like a full catalog reissue campaign with
this
like bonus
this
tracks
is
and all
an
that? Okay.
yes, this one they have.
Okay.
They do have bonus tracks. These came out. The reissue. This came out in 2002, so it's been a long time.
20 years.
But they, yeah, exactly. But they stopped
Okay.
after 1984 is Too Tough to Die. They haven't done anything else. Why that was stopped, the remastering, I don't know, which is a real shame because a lot of that stuff is out of print, and
Mhm.
you're going to pay a little bit for it. So I kept waiting for those. I kept waiting for Animal Boy and Brain Drain and things like that to get the remastered treatment, especially Brain Drain.
Mhm.
But just they have yet to do that, and I don't know that they ever will. Well, you never say never, so
Right.
perhaps one day.
I wonder if it has to do with, I mean, what, Joey Ramone passed away in, was it 2003?
2001.
Oh, 2001? Okay.
Yeah.
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 So right around that same time. So I wonder if that kind of, they lost steam on the reissue campaign, or, you know what I mean? Some of those
Well, you
ones.
think they would gain steam because they kind of came back into vogue a little bit. How many presidential shirts did the logo, the seal, did you start
Oh, right.
seeing around
Exactly.
like
Yep.
2001, 2004 or so?
I had one.
They were everywhere.
I
Yeah,
had
so
one.
did I.
So
A lot of people. So
I was in a cover band called the Stallones, where we dressed up like different Sylvester Stallone characters and played Ramone songs. I think I told you that.
are you
Right?
kidding? No, that's
So
the best thing I've ever heard.
I was the one from Over the Top, like the truck driver one.
Oh.
And our singer he dressed up like Rambo, and then the drummer was Rocky. He would just wear like a pair of shorts, which is kind of like what you sort of expect from like a drummer, right? Like being shirtless all the time. So yeah,
That's the best thing I've ever heard. That's
yeah.
awesome.
So that was fun.
That's really, really awesome.
More of a myth than actually anything actually ever happening with that. So I know that we talked about bands the other day, but I wanted to interject that. So okay, that's cool. What else you got?
Couple more things.
Okay.
this is an album that I saw advertised in magazines, just like we talked about.
Okay.
The album is Randy Holden.
Okay.
The album, or excuse, that's the artist rather. The album is Population 2. Are you familiar with this?
Yes, I have it.
Yes. Do you like it?
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. It's a cool
Yeah.
like, and I believe if you get, I don't, I'm not sure if I have the LP of that or not. But Easy Rider Records, is that who you got it from? Or
No, this is on. Yes, yeah, it absolutely
Riding
is.
Easy, Riding Easy. I'm sorry,
Ride Easy,
Riding
Ride
Easy.
Easy.
I'm
Yes.
sorry.
So
But he signs all the LPs. I think if you buy one from it, you'll get it. It's an autographed one. But
well, doggone, I wish I'd
yeah,
have known that.
yeah, no, it's cool. I mean, it's like, so what? So those who don't know, he was a member of Blue Cheer,
Blue Cheer, yeah.
right? And so that was sort of his was that his second solo album? Is that what it's called? Population 2? I can't remember. Did he
No,
have, or
this is the one and only. Well, at the time, back in
right?
the '90s, he released a couple of them, but this
Okay,
one, the reason it's called Population 2 is just because it's him and the drummer,
right.
and those are the only guys in the. It's from what I've read, the drummer also played keyboard simultaneously live. So you can well imagine that must have been a sight.
Yeah.
It's a timekeeping nightmare, if you ask me.
So, and I think it's what, from 70? I don't remember.
1970. Yeah.
1970. Okay, wow, look at me.
Yeah.
I'm 2 for 2.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
dude, you're Dave Ortiz, or you're David Ortizing it.
right.
Do you see where he got in?
Yeah, he did. No Roger Clemens, no Barry Bonds, but
And Clemens is off the ballot forever.
forever.
Well, until he gets voted in by the committee in 10 years. But I digress. But this is
Lifetime
really
Achievement
good.
Award, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So this is really good. I really enjoyed it. It's a lot, it's very guitar heavy. It's very guitar driven. There's some noodling, but I think it's really well. It was really great. I listened to it twice in the same day, which is odd for me because I know you can kind of do that. Once I'm done with a record, I'm kind of done with it for a while. But I was like, nah, let's go ahead and play that again.
It's cool because it's heavy. It's sort of like, those that don't know about Riding Easy Records, they've released this multiple. I think they're up to number 14 now at this point, where it's called Brown Acid, which is sort of.
I was going to bring those up. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's sort of like the period of. It's like nuggets for the 70s, I guess. So those bands that were sort of like, they've started in Psych, but yeah,
kind of a
yeah.
kind of a little thing, So, but yeah. Those are really great. I've streamed a couple of those compilations, and some of them are really good, and then some of them I'm like, yeah, let's see what else is on this.
And I've followed them on Instagram for a very long time, right? They always are, doing stuff, and they have pretty good sales every now and again, where they'll have like $10 records and things like that. But it's just it was like one of those things where I was like, I know if I buy like one or two of these, I'm gonna have to buy every single one, and then and that was like right around when there was like I was trying to catch up, and it was like I think at that point there was like either like 6 or 8, and it was like they're all on colored vinyl. They wanted like $18 a record, and it was like $80. It was like, oh yeah, get whatever, it'll be $80. They had a sale, and I was just like, I can't do it. Like I just can't. And compilations are fun, definitely on CD. I think they're a lot easier to listen to than like vinyl. Compilations are a bit difficult for me, so I'm not
Sure.
I haven't really been. I don't know. I don't really buy those like that anymore, just because it's like, yeah, it's cool to hear those one artists, but it's kind of better just to say like, here's a playlist, and I'll take out of the 12 or 14 songs that's on these albums, here are the 2 that are really, really good, and then there's the duds. Like there really needs to be a best of the best, but that'll never happen.
Yeah, there really does, because like we said, stuff like a band that would fit perfectly on that. Who knows? They may be on one of the other ones. Wicked Lady, you familiar with them?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're great, and that's it. That's another band that we could talk about, with stuff. But that's kind of the perfect band to put on one of those.
Well, I think they're. Well, Wicked Lady they're a British band, so I don't think that they were. Most of these are
Are they U.S.?
They're mostly U.S. bands, if not
really?
all.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's. Like I don't know. Again, maybe that's a better question to look at. Riding Easy Records to answer that, but I'm pretty sure that most of them are American bands. So I'm
Okay.
an American band. But yeah, these are the bands that opened up for Grand Funk and stuff, you know,
Well, but yeah,
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 and
no,
that's what it
that's
is.
exactly, yeah,
That's
or
it.
Steppenwolf or something like that. That's
Exactly.
exactly
Right.
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 So, all right, last one. You blew my mind because this anniversary of this record snuck up on me, and you know
Okay.
what I'm talking about.
Let's see.
Black
Oh,
Keys, El
okay.
Camino.
There you go. Okay.
So yeah, it's, I mean, great record. I think pretty much everybody knows this record. It was probably the best record released in 11 now, I guess is when it was released,
Yep.
which just sounds so odd to say. You know,
Yep.
I remember getting this and hearing Lonely Boy on the radio and all that kind of stuff, you know, the college radio and whatnot. And that's just kind of odd to say out loud that album is now, you know,
10 years old.
11 years
Exactly.
old, 10 years old, whatever
Right.
it is now. So, but yeah, that's man,
Yeah, you know, and I think
snuck up on me.
the Black Keys are, you know, they are in this very strange, you know, sort of era of music where, um, I feel that, you know, I think the White Stripes have they sort of eclipsed the Black Keys as far as popularity goes. Maybe as far as like a mainstream thing, and I think maybe that's because, you know, the Black Keys were sort of more true to like the blues roots, right? So they had,
Right, right.
you know, so that appeal wasn't there, but they were always sort of my, I always liked them, you know, those first couple albums that they had were just phenomenal. And a friend of mine, when I was in college, he, you know, it was like, hey, here's their first album, and you know, and Thick Freakness, and I'm like listening to it. He put
Yeah.
it all on one CD. I think he like maybe took two tracks off of it or something like that, but he put it like all on one CD. Um, and he gave me that CD, and he gave me My Morning Jacket. It Still Moves. So I don't know if you're My Morning Jacket fan.
You know, I've got a friend of mine that tells me I need to listen to them, but I've
Yeah,
never sought them out.
yeah. You know, they're a band too that, much like the Black Keys, that it's like, you know, I liked a lot of their albums. I really looked forward to their releases. Like, okay, when's the next one coming out, and things like that. And then, you know, there was a couple albums that they just sort of, you know, I just was kind of like, yeah, you know what, I don't think I necessarily need to buy that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I just sort of stopped. But My Morning Jacket's another band like that.
Okay.
I think there's about, so It Still Moves, and then Z came out. That was when I was working at the record store, and then Evil Urges came out, and like those three, like I really like. And then when the other ones came out, like, because they were an artist that were like, their very first album is like, you'd love it. You'd love It Still Moves. I think it's actually their second album, but
Okay.
you'd love that. And but they definitely evolved, right? Like, so their music started having a little more sort of digital keyboard kind of stuff in it, and then again they became sort of like, I don't even want to say, like, it's hard to describe. It's really hard to describe what type of band they were. But their first album is almost like just like an indie country Americana rock album,
Okay. Yeah, that sounds
like
great.
really close to sort of like Drive By Truckers kind of stuff, right?
Okay.
And then, you know, and then I sort of went a little more of a pop way. But yeah, I mean, Jim James is awesome. They're a great band. Um, but that's another great example, and I think that really sets the tone for what we're going to talk about here, where, you know, there's a lot of those bands that came out at that time, and, you know, that early 2000s. I think that's really what we'll talk a lot about that, I think. So maybe that first 10 years of the decade, right? We'll talk through
That's
here.
yeah. That
So
sounds great.
Craig, talking about the Black Keys, said, I'm going to be that guy that said I didn't get into the Black Keys. I tried when that album came out and wasn't that into them. I tried some years later, and it just didn't do it for me. No hate here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so again, yeah, I mean, I think
It's all good.
yeah, there's some folks that just don't. I don't know. I think that.
Like I'm a big Cream fan, and that's how I got turned on to them. Is I was at the record store and someone was like, "Have you ever heard Thick Freakness?" And I was like, "No," and that was my exposure to it. And we
Mhm.
had just gotten done playing, I don't know, Wheels on Fire or the first Fresh Cream. I don't remember what word. No, maybe it was Live Cream. Anyway, we had just gotten done with that.
We
Put
just
that
got
on, and
done with the 30-minute version of Toad, and
yeah,
said,
and it was like, "Hey, would you like to hear a more condensed garage version of this?"
yeah,
That's, you know, but yeah, it was that's exactly how I got turned on to them.
yeah.
So
Craig, I think their first two albums, I think, are really, and I don't want to be like that guy that's like, oh, they after that album they weren't good, but those first two albums are really, I think they're just really tight, and The
Are you a fan of? I'm sorry.
well, I think there's just a rawness to those records. The later, like when Brothers came out, I mean, that was like a really heavily produced. I was not a big fan of that one. So
See, I like Brothers. I don't like Catch and Release.
okay,
And what's that? A Magic
Attack and
Potion
Release,
or
yeah, Attack
Attack
and
and Release?
See, I like that one. I like that one too.
Yeah, yeah.
Magic Potion was
Um,
great. Yeah.
what their second one was what? Rubber Factory.
No, that was their third one. So,
See,
and the
that's
cool
a good
thing too
record
is they,
too.
pretty much they definitely did the like we're only going to sign like a one album deal. So they had a lot of like, they released one album that was on their first album is on Bomp.
Hmm.
And they've just pressed the crap out of that one over and over and over and over and over again. And then I think they were on Fat Possum, I think for Thick Freakness, and then what was then Rubber Factory. I think those were on that, and then they signed to like either like RCA, I think, or Warner Brothers, and then now they're on the None Such label, which they've released I think maybe 2 or 3 albums on the Not Such label. But again, we're talking big money there, so
I want some cash.
yeah. Craig says my morning jacket's definitely interesting, definitely dig them, but can be hit or miss for me. But yeah, and again, I think that's one of the things that was like tough to kind of like just sort of like say like, okay, I'm gonna go through the motions. And Drive By Truckers are another band like that for me too, where it's like
Like I
there's
love Great Southern Opera, but
yeah,
man, some of those other albums are really hard to get through.
like Gangsta Billy, like that.
Yes.
Like it's. I mean,
Yeah.
again, the band really was evolving and changing, and it really is a completely different album. Where you're
Yeah.
right. So I think Southern Rock Opera is probably their
Oh,
most
oh, I think
accessible.
so too. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Saw them live. That was a great show. I think
Really?
everybody there had a beard. I think that was like you had to have a beard or they didn't let you in, and that was pretty much it. So okay, so a couple of things that I wanted to show just from just sort of acquisitions for the week. Um, kind of some interesting far out stuff, Steve. I know that this is not necessarily our
Ooh.
wheelhouse, but I did want to talk about this for a little bit. So
Hey.
this is the Elvis Viva Las Vegas. And I won't give away all my secrets, Steve. I know you know the story behind this, but I bought this from an eBay seller who had like no picture, pretty much had the title was all wrong and stuff like that. Um, and this was a Walmart exclusive at one point. You could only get it at Walmart. So the first disc is sort of a lot of those. A lot of his sort of later career, like that early six or late '60s, early '70s kind of, you have like Viva Las Vegas, CC Rider, Never Been to Spain, and uh, but the second disc is a live show, and there was this massive box set, and this is funny because like I don't think you're an Elvis fan whatsoever.
Hold on.
I'm not. What's that? Oh yeah, well
Oh, right there.
you got the taking
Yeah.
care of business, yeah.
Come on.
But
Yeah.
um, apparently there's these massive box sets that they. I mean, I'm not really surprised, but it's not something that I've actively, would seek out.
I'm not
Uh,
a fan of his live stuff outside of like the 68 comeback special. Like I'm just
well, this is you.
but you can change my mind.
You would dig this. So this is the recorded at the International Hotel in Las Vegas, August 21st, 1969. Okay.
Okay.
So the thing that he was doing, he had a run that he was doing this. Of course, the '68 comeback special. He sort of says like, okay, I'm going to start touring again, and then he kind of goes to Vegas and he does these residencies, we'll just say, right?
Yeah.
So he does like a dinner show and then he does like a midnight show, and he was doing shows a night, and it's just insane. It's just like, I mean, it's awesome to just hear him like huffing and puffing after songs, and just
Oh,
like
yeah.
like he's like basically he just balls to the wall. We'll say that, right? But really, what struck me really funny, and I mentioned this to you, is so August 21st, 1969. That was a Thursday. Um, that was 3 days after Woodstock. So listening to this, it just sort of blows my mind that it's like you think of like, okay, here's all this stuff that happened at Woodstock, and Jimi Hendrix with the Star Spangled Banner, and Country Joe with the Fish Cheer, and Richie Havens, and
Y'all
Crosby,
want to
Stills,
hear
Nash
Return to Sender?
and that's it. And you can tell the people were getting into it, and there's like there's the things where you can tell he gets really close to the edge of the stage and somebody sort of pulls him away, and and he's singing off the mic, and and they're like people are like, it's it's so cool. Like it's just like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It was that was just a fun little pickup. So I've listened to it twice. Um, but yeah, it's with the Taking Care of Business band, and like they're hot, man. Like it
Dude,
is.
they're on fire. They're great backing band.
Yeah, I think that and I want to say that what was it, the guy Mickey Jones, the drummer for he drummed with Dylan on the '66 tour,
Okay.
the UK tour. I think he was the drummer in the band at that time. But that was a fun pickup. That was only a couple of bucks. And then I know one guy that we both have been talking about it quite a bit, John Martin.
Oh, okay.
This is the Live at Leeds. This is just the short. It's still 40 minutes or so. It's only 6 songs. There's an 18-minute version of Outside In, Solid Weather or Solid Air, Bless the Weather. Um, this is really cool. I've been really digging this, and of course it looks like the bootleg with the stamp kind of thing.
Yeah.
And when these originally came out on vinyl, it was a self-produced album, and he sold them through mail order. So
Oh wow.
every once in a while you'll find one where he signed it, John and Beverly, which was his wife. But I've been digging this, and it's just him and Danny Thompson, who played bass, and Danny Thompson played with Pentangle. John Stevens plays the drums. But that's been fun stuff that I've been
Well,
listening
you
to.
turned me on to that. I have listened to Solid Air about 3 times this last week. So
So Craig, was that one? Was Solid Air one of the 20 records that you haven't either listened to or that you owned on your 150 albums that you must listen to before you die?
that one was on there.
It was on there, sure was.
Yeah. Along with a lot of, there were some strange choices on there.
Yeah, Massive Attack. I think there was like 2 albums by them on there. It's
Yeah.
like, okay. So, well, cool. Well, let's move on. So, let's talk about music magazines, Steve.
Let's do it.
So
She saw my picture in a music
I was like, I saw you posted that, and I was
magazine.
like, is this a Kiss reference? Did you just put a
Yeah.
Kiss reference on
Yeah.
it? All right.
Yeah. Come on and love
Yeah.
me.
I don't know the song. What album is it on?
Dress to Kill. Side
Oh, so sorry. Sorry. Um, but yeah. So, music magazines. So, my sort of introduction to music magazines. Um, we know that sort of like Rolling Stone was out there, but
Sure.
when we were kids, I really didn't think that, like, to me Rolling Stone was always like very very mainstream in the 90s, right? And I never really felt the need to kind of like pick those up. Like when I would go get my hair cut, the place that you got your hair cut, they had a stack of magazines, and they would have you
In
know
the red binder.
no, it wasn't a red binder, but yeah,
Oh.
we had those at my school, my elementary school.
Oh.
The magazines were in that red binder.
I went to a different barber shop where they're like, yeah, I don't want you stealing these magazines and walking away with them. The gas station next door had a hubcap on the key too. It's like the
Oh,
same
really?
thing.
Oh, wow. That's great. But yeah, so my sort of first introduction to music magazines was Spin magazine. So this is the January of 2001 issue, and you can tell it's just beat the
Been well
crap.
read.
Yeah, because I would put it in my backpack at school, and I would bust it out when it was time to read, and that's what I would do. And um, I got a subscription to this, so it was actually pretty cheap. Let's check out how cheap this was. It is 12 issues for $8 a year, 7.95. That's
Wow.
that's all it was to get Spin magazine. And sort of looking at these today, I just sort of had to laugh. Like it was just um, I thought these magazines were sort of like, they were so cutting edge back in the day. Like you had Rolling Stone, like I said, which was sort of like mainstream, but like Spin I always thought was sort of like the alternative, cutting edge. You know what I mean? Like it was the you know I don't know. It was a little like I don't
No, I
use
know
the
what you
word.
mean.
I don't use the word grungier, but it was just a little more.
It was
Uh,
more indie than
yeah, like
it was. Rolling Stone was going to Best Buy to buy your CDs, and
right.
Spin was maybe going to the mom and pop place, further down the road.
Yeah, and it's just very interesting how like yeah, I learned a lot from these from Spin. I did like I think one thing that was interesting is like you would see some of the records that they would talk about, there would just be like a little blurb, like it would be like a little box that would be like, this album's coming out. And it reminds me, I forgot a record that I wanted to grab, so I'll just talk about it. So, Andrew WK's first album, like you were a
Oh yeah,
fan, you were a fan,
yeah, oh
right?
yeah, yeah.
Right.
Let's get a party
Um,
going.
yeah. So he,
I remember that.
so I remember seeing him in like a little blurb, right? And there was just like a little thing that was like this guy, he's playing shows in New York, and it's absolutely crazy.
Dude, they
So
hyped that album up
yeah,
forever. It seems like they were. You talk about having the industry behind you like tenfold. They were pushing that record.
yeah. And I it was definitely an album that I was like, I got to get this, and I got it, soon after it came out. And it's kind of weird because that was definitely a time where I had maybe 20 or 30 albums, right? I didn't have many CDs. I didn't like I may have had more than that, but in my mind, that's all it is. So it was you would talk to your friend and they'd say, "Hey, you want a burnt CD?" And I got the new Limp Bizkit CD. You want a burnt seed of it? So like you got that.
We used to do that. We used to like have we would spend the night, and we'd stay up all night burning CDs and
Yeah,
making mix CDs, and we that's exactly what we did.
yeah.
Made best of compilations and all that kind of stuff.
Craig was talking about Circus, Hit Parader. So yeah, those metal magazines were definitely,
Metal Edge was that
Metal
was
Edge.
my first that was my first music magazine that I spent money on because they had a little blurb about Kiss in there, and but there was lots of stuff like Power Man 5000 and
Right.
Limp Bizkit and Corn and stuff that I necessarily
Seven
wasn't
Dust. Do you
into.
remember the band
Yeah,
Seven
yeah,
Dust?
oh yeah, oh yeah.
They were
And not necessarily stuff that I was big into, but every now and then they would kind of cover, just a little blurb about an older band and whatnot.
yeah.
So, but yeah, totally.
Mark
That's
Ne- Mark Neely says the 500-page book, The Spin Alternative Record Guide, was an invaluable resource in the early pre-internet era, one of the first of its kind. I remember that. I know we had it at the record store, but um, it is funny, and that's another thing that's really interesting about these is sort of, like the cell phone ads, and just it's weird to not see something saying Facebook all the time, or like, oh, Instagram or whatever. You know what I mean? It's
oh
just
yeah,
it,
all their handles on it and where to
yeah, or
find them on
like
their social media accounts. Yeah.
go on YouTube, and there is in some of the later issues, I brought a few of those ones as well too, but it talks about that kind of thing, like check it, this guy was on MySpace, and that was really when that movement started to, by 2004, things like that. But yeah, I mean, here you go, here's Limp Bizkit with what was that called, the chocolate starfish and the hot dog flavored water, like,
Yeah.
again, that has a review here, and I don't see that they give it a, any stars or anything like that, but it's really cool just to kind of go back and take a look at these, because these were the, when these albums came out, here's an article for Nine Inch Nails. It's bizarre to see sort of how much is advertisements and how much is actually sort of music things. But it hit the spot for me. Like, when these would hit my mailbox, I did a subscription to them. When they hit the mailbox, I was all about it. Like, there's a thing for Tool. Like, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, you just don't, here at the drive-in. Are you a fan of that album?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean,
And
again.
it's fun to see that those albums, that we consider classic now,
Mhm.
maybe not Chocolate Starfish, but some of the other records that we would consider classic now are just kind of, at that time fresh, which is,
Right.
it's kind of odd to see that it's like, wow, this is getting reviewed and now it's a classic record. It's kind of just same thing thumbing through, 70s issues of Rolling Stone.
Yeah. But for me, in 2001, I was really into, I started really getting into punk rock, right? So that was right as that sort of wave of like, the Blink 182s and Green Day comes back around again. Right as those bands were started really getting popular, I was really into that stuff, and I was going to shows all the time, and it was really all just like word of mouth. Like it would be like my friend would be like, "Hey, let's go see this band," and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, cool." Like I've never heard of them, but if you like them, I like them too. So I learned a
Sure.
lot about music that way, and and there was like, hey, here's the one punk band that I like, and I bought a compilation of theirs. Remember those compilation CDs, like, the
Uncle Rama.
Punkorama, and of course,
Yeah.
the Fat Records ones. Those ones
Yep.
were absolutely amazing. And
Oh
oh,
yeah.
here's this. I really like that one song off of Punkorama, so I bought, you know, whatever,
But the thing
some
about those, they,
epitaph
they
band.
they were so cost effective too for the buyer. They were so buyer friendly. They were like $3-4.99 in some
Yeah,
cases, and you'd get an entire CD. It wasn't an EP. You get the entire CD for that. So you could buy one No Effects record, or you could
right.
buy two or three or four of those. So
Yeah. And I think that was it. It was especially around here, bands would come to Pittsburgh quite a bit. So
yeah,
we'd go, and it would be you'd get the Punkorama CD, and then when you went to the show, their CD was there for $10 because a lot of times the record stores didn't have it necessarily. You know what I mean? That was another thing. So one that I earmarked here, because this is like one of my favorite releases of 2001, is, and I don't know if you're hip to this one, but like, man, I listened to the crap out of it, and I still do. Stephen Malkmus, his first solo album. Have you
I
heard
have
it?
I have no recollection of this.
Um, it's a record you must listen to.
Okay.
It's I listened to that way too much. It's just one of those ones that was one of the first CDs that I ever bought, and I was really into Sonic Youth. And a friend of my brother's was like, "If you like Sonic Youth, you really should listen to Pavement." And I'm like, "Who's
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Pavement?" And so then he was like, "Yeah, check out Pavement." And then I mean, Spin hyped that album quite a bit. So on the next issue I'm going to show you, they actually, he made the cover, and he had a big story that he's in. But yeah, his first solo album is just, it's a phenomenal record. So, um, but this is my first one, my first subscription copy here. So of course, Outcast is on it. This is
Right
March
on.
March
Okay.
of 2001, and then there's a
Yeah.
little thing on here. It says "Slanted and Disenchanted." Pavement Stephen Malcolmus goes solo. Ooh,
Dun dun
scandal.
dun.
So I will show you this too. Here's the 12 CDs for a penny. Things that don't exist anymore. Uh,
Uh,
it's just been a blast to sort of like look through here, and they're not in alphabetical order, which to me is like that's a problem. Like I read like one column, and I'm like, I can't read any more of this because it's just like
it's like thumbing through my collection.
right, yeah, it's all over the place. And of course we know that Craig. Well, we won't talk about it. So just in case the
there's
fans.
a great Curb Your Enthusiasm from that where Leon is talking about you order CDs from those magazines and give them delivered to the neighbor's house and pick them up like you live there.
So enter the Riddler. That's not going to show too well, but that's okay. Stephen Malkmus. So, are you a fan? Like, so are you a fan of his stuff, or just
I
have you
mean,
checked?
I'm a big Pavement fan, but no, I'll have to check that out.
Just to let you know, Scorchers 81s. Those are available at Gadzooks.
Gadzooks,
In
wow.
case you were wondering about that. So,
I had a friend's older brother work at Gadzooks.
yeah. That was a fun story. So yeah, so I read again, I discovered a lot of stuff through Spin.
Yeah.
This was a fun issue. This was what, May of 2001, 25 years of punk, and it's just weird
Wow.
because again, it's been almost 25 years since this issue came out. So I really
50 years of punk at this point.
exactly. It's just weird to see. I mean, here's Daft Punk. This is like
Wow.
before that stuff came out, and yeah, it's just so bizarre, man. It's just um, it's interesting to sort of just Crazy Town gets a big, you
Oh
know,
wow. You remember that awful song came out?
yeah. um, so, but it's weird because it's like they would do these sort of like fashion things too, and I didn't really realize that first time around, but it was like, hey, here's we're doing
You
this,
should
and
buy these jeans.
yeah, you should check this out, and you should check this out. So there's a lot of ads. Pete Yorn, Music for the Morning After.
Nice.
Uh, I didn't bring that, but I thought about it because that was one thing that I was listening to. Here's your if you wanted the VHS of the real world's best fights, you can get that on VHS tape. Available at Coconuts and Saturday Matinee. Don't even think about
Order
ordering it
now.
online. Yeah.
Order
Um,
now will include a free complimentary volume of bum fights and
oh, and there was a I don't know if I brought that one up, but there was definitely a spin magazine that talked about bum fights. So did you find any spins? Did you say you had those or just your
no,
mojos?
I did not find any spins. I I have very little stuff. Well, I have a few,
Okay.
should I say, but these are mostly English magazines.
Okay.
So I'll wait till we
Yeah,
get
yeah.
there.
Let me show a couple more spins. I did want to show some albums that I discovered because of spin. The International Noise Conspiracy. This came out in 2000. Survival Sickness is a phenomenal album. It's incredible.
Okay.
Um, it's sort of, so these guys, right? We know that they talked about those bands
Now
quite a bit.
that's this is going to sound old school.
Right.
So staying up late at night when I was 17 after a night of hanging out, that video for "Hate to Say I Told You So" came on the came on the TV and blew my mind. I was like, this is so awesome, because at that point in time I had just gotten big into the Ramones, and so that was like, modern day Ramones, Stones ish. They had the sound of the Ramones, but the stylist and the look of the Stones, and so that was right up my alley. I still love that record. I played that, and then gosh, what's the follow up to that with "Walk Idiot, Walk on It," Tyrannosaurus Hives or something? I still play those
Yeah.
two records pretty regularly.
Yeah. I think that for me, they just sort of like hit the spot. There was,
Yeah,
it was,
absolutely.
it was the White Stripes, the Hives, the Vines, the Black Keys. It's really funny because I
First couple
have,
of Strokes records.
yeah, the Strokes, and we'll talk about them in a second. There was an Ugly Things where they were talking about sort of the garage rock. Like this is, I think it's like a 2001 issue. I'll
And Garage Rock Revival
yeah,
with all that kind of stuff was lumped in.
and people were kind of upset that it was like, oh, the garage rock's going mainstream again, and it's a fad and things like that. And Mike Stax was just like, just enjoy that it's happening, right? Like
Yeah,
this is amazing to go
yeah,
see these
exactly.
bands and see these guys that are sort of, throwback to 30 years prior, basically. Um, but yeah, this is a phenomenal album. I ripped
Love it.
my booklets are ripped because I would pull it out, read the lyrics and all that all the time and whatever. It's an AOL Time Warner Company is what it has on there. So yeah, Veni Veni Vicious is it's a great album, but it's sort of, so they were from Sweden and also the International Noise Conspiracy, but the International Noise Conspiracy, they were on Bleeding Heart, which was like a subsidiary of Epitaph. So
Okay.
these guys were sort of more punk, more authentic, I guess you could say, than the Hives. Not like one was better than the other, but they were a little. This is sort of like they were more like the MC5, and these, I don't know. There's not like a pop version of the MC5. I don't know. It's just maybe this was the
The
MC5.
Carpenters.
These were the Stooges. Let's just say that. And then of course this came out in 2001, A New Morning, Changing Weather, which had Capitalism Stole My Virginity, which I thought was one of the greatest songs of all time. So look that one up. That's a great tune. It's still to this day is still good. So yeah, they talked about that quite a bit in Spin. That was a couple bands. Another band that I really started listening to because of that, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. So this is just sort of like the best of the early stuff. But Spin would always talk about Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. They absolutely loved like
Yeah,
Nick Cave.
he was their Bob Dylan to Rolling Stone.
You think so? Okay, is
Yeah, oh
that
yeah, oh for sure, oh yeah, yeah. You know how Rolling Stone just absolutely adores Dylan.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
Spin always was always on Nick Cave.
Yeah.
Anything he was doing, they were. It was high praise.
So I'm going to show three more. These are just three. I mean, I pretty much have my run is I know I have that one January of 2001. I pretty much read them from that time till about 2004 or so, and then I just kind of stopped getting interested in them. A lot of the the bands that they would talk about, I just really wasn't interested in. And that was really like my big shift at that time, sort of towards like classic rock. Like that's where I really was like, the popular, because again, Spin talks about the popular music, but they talk about sort of that like, not like mainstream big tier bands. They would talk about lower tier bands. I wanted to pull this one out because I knew that I had to show this for you, Steve. The 50 greatest bands of all time.
And they have number 1 right on the cover.
Actually, it's number 32, in case you were wondering. But let's just flip through here, and I'm curious if you.
What year is that?
This is
2001?
February of 2002. So look at this. You got the America Tribute to Heroes. Very interesting. It's very interesting reading these magazines that are like, it's just really post 9/11 kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
It's just strange about the perspective where they might interview some people and talk about them and hey, what was going on? And like, you remember this, man? Remember when they used to put perfumes in there? This one still smells. That still has a smell to it. It's 20 years old and still has a smell to it. So the greatest bands of all time, number 1, they said, was
The Beatles.
the Beatles.
Yeah, of course.
Let's see. I'll just kind of go through these really quick. Number 2, a band that you talked about today, the Ramones.
The Ramones, okay.
Ramones get number 2. Number 3 was Led Zeppelin. 4, Bob Marley and the Wailers. Number 5, Nirvana.
Nirvana.
6, Parliament Funkadelic. Number 7 was The Clash.
Okay.
Number 8, Public Enemy. Number 9, The Rolling Stones.
Okay.
This is cool. This is the South by Southwest conferences and festivals. Look at that advertisement
Nice.
for that. It has to be like the first year for that, right?
Probably.
Over 15,000 participants from music, film industries converge on the Austin Convention Center over 10 days. Oh, 87 was when it debuted. So I'm wrong. That was the Beastie Boys, number 10. Number 11,
Really?
the Velvet Underground. Number 12, the Sly and Family Stone. 13, U2. I feel like 80s Spin Magazine, they talked about U2 quite a bit. And they still they really talked about U2 quite a bit, even past
Is
that.
the Dead on there at all?
We're getting there. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at this. I didn't spoil it.
Let's just go through all 50.
Okay, 14 is Run DMC, 15 Radiohead, 16 the Jimi Hendrix Experience, 17 Sonic Youth, 18 AC/DC, and anticipation is half the fun. Lifestyles. Number 19, The Stooges.
Okay.
20, Metallica. It's like they do like a really good one and then they do like a really like let's do something cutting edge. Let's not 21, The Smiths. 22, Patti Smith. 23, NWA. 24, Kraftwerk. 25, The Sex Pistols. 26, Pearl Jam. Number 27, Grateful Dead. There they are.
Okay.
Do you want me to read this? Do you just want me to read this for you? So let's keep in mind this is what 7 years post
after
Garcia here. A bunch of paunchy, death-obsessed psychedelic druids who became surrogate parents for 2 generations of shiny, happy space dancers. The Dead were one of the most paradoxical rock bands ever. They made the best music as solemn folk rockers, but will always be remembered as jamming party people. They were countercultural icons who evolved into an all-American acid head billionaire teddy bears. They can be credited/blamed for upper middle class youth traveling in vans and not bathing, 50-year-old business execs wearing ponytails and Birkenstocks, wavy gravy ice cream, and the whole rave thing. They influenced Fish, Dave Matthews Band, Blues Traveler, the Disco Biscuits, Meat Puppets, Yolo Tenga. That's debatable. The Horde Tour. It's the Horde Tour in general. And their classic album is American Beauty.
That's like the most backhanded compliment I think I've ever heard in a music magazine.
Oldies Radio said, "What did I miss?" We'll just
hey, there you are.
A little bit there. Hey, Oldies Radio. So 28 REM. So again, here this is like very typical Spin.
I'm you have REM. I'm okay with that.
And then 29 is Black Sabbath, right? 30 is Pavement. 31.
So AC/DC is better than Black Sabbath according to this. list?
No, AC.
Because you said
AC.
AC/DC was like, yeah, you said
Did I?
AC/DC already. They were like 19 or so, or 17. They were better than the Stooges, or excuse me,
Oh
they
yeah,
were ranked
18.
higher.
Yeah. So Sonic Youth
Yeah.
ranked higher than AC/DC. Yes, but you're right. Yes. So we have at 31. This is fun. This is like your record collection right here. 31 we have Fugazi, and then
Oh,
32 we have Kiss. So so
okay.
so Fugazi edges out Kiss just by one. And then you have the Pretenders at 33, Rage Against the Machine 34. Fela Kuti is at 35.
Ooh, all right.
David Bowie and the Spiders from Mars. Very specific on which David Bowie
I
is
was
number
gonna say,
36.
yeah, this, we're not taking all that young American
Yeah,
stuff. This
exactly.
is
Yeah. Blondie at 37.
all right.
Bad Brains 38. The Who
Yeah, there
at
you go.
39. 40 is Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. 41 is New Order. 42, Husker Du.
Nice.
Beating out number 43, Guns N' Roses.
Rightfully so.
44 is Outcast. 45, The Beach Boys. 46, Massive Attack. There we go. 47,
Okay.
Leonard Skinner gets a nod.
Yeah.
They beat out Korn at 48.
Good Lord.
Who beat out Pink Floyd at 49, and who beat out the Red Hot Chili Peppers at 50. So that's interesting, to say the least. So
Okay, let me ask. I'm sorry.
has
Go
it
ahead.
aged well? Has it aged well? Do you
No,
think? Not
no,
at all.
absolutely not. Not at all. Yeah. Okay. What bands? Let me ask you this: what bands would not be on that list now, and who would they be replaced by?
Ooh.
I got some. I'm going to throw at you, kind sir. I think the Strokes would edge out Korn.
Oh yeah. So this is pre-Strokes. So that's a nice observation there. Yeah, this is pre-Strokes.
So
I feel
the
like
Black Keys,
the White Stripes
they?
would have been on there. Yep.
I think the White Stripes would be on there for sure. But who?
Yeah.
I mean, who would you take off?
Oh,
I don't know.
They take off AC/DC. I think AC/DC, like they would, I think
And,
that
and
would be a little more edgy. I think if they would go that direction.
I would take off Guns N' Roses over AC/DC, but that's just.
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of splitting hairs here.
Yeah, Guns. I mean, but you keep in mind this.
Guns N' Roses had one record.
Right.
AC/DC had several, and that's the only thing I'm basing it on.
I think the Pretenders would probably get dropped.
And listen, I like the Pretenders. Their first, 3 records are. I sound so pretentious saying that, but the first 2-3 Pretenders records are great. But no way they're top 50. That's come on. That's silly.
Yeah, I think that's probably maybe New Order too. Like New Order is like I feel like that's very like.
I mean, I would
magazine being like we're cool like.
Well,
we're
I'm
cool
surprised Joy Division didn't get on there. You
right.
know?
Well, and I think that they've since moved into that upper echelon.
I mean, you could argue Zappa as well.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Top 50 Zappa's not even on there at all.
Yeah. So there's a great article here too that's about furries. Are you familiar with what furries are, right?
I know what a furry is. Yeah.
There's a big furry convention that's in Pittsburgh every year.
Really?
Yep.
Is it? Well, I'll ask you that offline.
Yeah. So that's that issue. Two more I wanted to show real quick.
All right.
So this is the first one, October of 2000.
Boy, they have a lot of advertisements for Bacardi. I mean,
yeah, they do. So 2002, October of 2000.
I remember that issue.
Yep, and it says the garage scene revs up. The White Stripes make rock fun, raw, and cool again. And then plus, they're right here. The Hives break out. Okay, right there. And then you have a little thing for
nice placement.
Yeah, you got Radiohead, and then you got, of course, the Vines, where they talk about the Vines. So this is a pretty fun issue. It's cool to see. How, again, they sort of get like that moody spread that shows that Oldies Radio was 12 years old. Yeah, again, it's interesting to sort of look at these in the through the eyes of what 20 years of musical changes have happened. So
yeah. Mark Haley says the Birds would have to be on the list now. Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah. I think
we need to do that. We need to put together our top 50 list.
Ooh.
Show idea. What do you guys think?
I got things to do, man. Top 50 bands of all time. How do we decide that?
Well, I mean, I'll get the final say, so I don't know. We'll have listeners vote on.
There you go.
We'll make it, and we'll have another interactive show.
And this is also this. I feel like this bears mentioning here. So this is really sort of like the
Is that
first.
Coldplay?
Yeah, exactly. So Parachutes. Are you a fan of Coldplay? Do you like that album?
I honestly, I've never heard a record by them, but
Okay.
I don't get the hate for them. Like, I don't think they're not like U2. U2, I think is. I mean, there's ambient noise I'd rather listen to than U2.
Mm-hmm.
Silence is even better than U2. But the stuff I've heard by Coldplay, I don't mind it. It's to me, it's dentist music. What I mean by that's stuff you hear in the grocery store or at the dentist office or in the mall elevator or something like that. Like, I don't hate it. It's kind of there. So,
well, I can say that. So when Parachutes came out, that album, they played it a lot on MTV2. Do you remember MTV2? How that was sort of
yeah.
if you watched it 2 o'clock in the morning, they had like Tool videos on basically.
Sure.
But that album was, and I read up a little bit on it. And it was interesting just to kind of look at how that album really became. It was released in sort of the summer of 2001. Like May, they started releasing some singles. June, I think Yellow actually was when that was released. And if you look at sort of like they have their they sort of did like a world tour right after that or during that when those were coming out, and it's just like LA, Chicago, New York, right, when they come to the United States, and like they play like Dallas, and you know what I mean. Like it's just like really like they played the big names in the United States, and that was it. And then now it's like they could play anywhere if they wanted to. But that
aren't they breaking up?
I'm not sure. And honestly, it's what's really funny is I had that album and I was kind of pretentious about it because I was like, I love that song Yellow. Like, I mean, I just loved hearing that song. It was, and that whole album is really good. And I remember like letting some friends know about it, and they were like, "Oh, have you ever heard Coldplay?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, I've been listening to them for like 6 months now." And then they were like, they just like kind of took offense to it. And I was like, "Do you want me to you want me to find the receipt for this? I've been listening to that." And they were like, they didn't believe me. Like they didn't believe me. And I was just sort of like, and I was just like, okay, whatever. And I moved on.
It's your cool currency.
My cool currency. But Mark Neely, if you're still watching,
I had that issue right there. That is the issue that my love affair of Is This It started. So please, okay. I'll shut up.
Yeah, we'll flip through some of this. There's the advertisement for that looks so like
it's 2003, isn't it?
Yeah, it's January 2003. Yep.
Yep. I remember that because I bought this. You want to know how much I obsess over this record? I'm going to tell you this.
Let's hear it.
Here's the Barnes and Nobles, right? In my right hand, there's a strip mall. At the other end of it was an Italian restaurant. So I met my folks there. We had a bite to eat. I bought that Spin magazine. I got us a table. I was thumbing through and reading about that magazine and getting really hyped about reading that album. Went right after dinner, went right back to that Barnes and Nobles, scanned this CD under the little listening display they had in there, sampled a couple of tracks, and by the third track, I was like, "Yeah, for $12, I'm gonna snag this."
Last night,
dude, that absolutely, that album is perfect. That album, I would not change a note on that record. That's, again, I feel like I say this every week, but I'll compile a list if people are that curious. But again, that's top 10 albums, Desert Island, whatever. I love that first album.
Now, do you think that they, in a way, they sort of they just never lived up to the hype of the first album, and that's why
Room on Fire is a worthy follow-up. It's really good. Is it as good? No. It's a nice sophomore album. But what's their third record? It's got Juicebox on it. When that came out in 2006, I was done, and it just kind of I've been disappointed with what I've heard ever since then. But that first album, I mean, again, it's you've got your whole life to write your first album, right? Mm-hmm. And they hit it out of the park. It's kind of one of those things they completely. I don't know what happened with that band, but it just seems like they completely just did such a good record the first time that anything else they would release would pale in comparison.
I'll say there's
Guns N' Roses is a prime example. I
okay,
mean,
okay,
seriously, Appetite for Destruction, they hit that, and then you had Lies, and usually, I mean, it's just a steady decline. I mean, that's about the best thing I compare it. It's like they have that one first album that's absolutely amazing, and then the rest are just all Boston's and other bands.
yeah. And it's well, I think what's cool is if we look at, there were these bands that at that time it was like a very level playing field. Like whether you were the White Stripes or you were the Strokes or you were the Black Keys or the Vines or the Hives.
But
I
none
feel
of those bands had as good a record as that.
no, I agree. I
That
think
I
that
mean that sits right at the top. That's probably the best album released in the 2000s.
you think so. You want to say that?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's so cool that just to see like it was like that was just, I mean, it was like an arms race between those bands where it was like
Sure.
who was going to be the one walking away. And it's
Yeah.
interesting to see that, and at the end of the day, it's the White Stripes, right? Jack White and the White Stripes have just,
Overall, yeah. Yeah.
just
Overall.
hands down, they did everything. But this was also a nice little like bands to watch, right? So this little thing. So you got CKY, which of course did stuff with Bam Margera and all that.
Yeah.
You have the Warlocks,
Jackass.
which I don't know if they're still around or not, but they've put out some great albums, sort of a shoegaze. Like they're very like the Brian Jonestown Massacre.
Okay.
And then you have a little blurb here for the Greenhorns, which we'll get back to them in a moment, but it was always cool to sort of look at that, and then again you have a band that has this little tiny little blurb here, and then the next thing you know they're
They're
10
huge. Yeah,
10
they're everywhere.
10 issues down the road they're really
They're on the cover.
yeah, exactly.
Is Jet in there? You remember that band,
Yeah, Jet was, I feel like they were sort of, yeah, they were there, but they were kind of like almost like the second wave. And let's talk about this, man. Do you remember Life before this and Life after Grand Theft Auto Vice City?
I do indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the year of music 2002. The rebirth of cool with, of course, the Strokes there.
The Darkness? Is it
the Strokes? Oh, the Darkness was another band that sort of came around.
Yeah.
I know that we're talking like their oldies radio is talking about Franz Ferdinand, the Brave.
Yeah.
Like those are all sort of those those bands that became sort of I don't know, we'll say second tier sort of thing. So trends of the year, they have the Strokes, the Hives, the White Stripes. Here's Wilco. Here's some stuff about the Flaming Lips.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Hotel came out that year, didn't it?
Yep.
Or was that 2000? Well, anyway.
I think yeah. So sometime around that. So let's go real quick. Here's the 40 albums of the year for 2001. Number one is the White Stripes, White Blood Cells. So of course that album was on MTV. They just played that like absolutely crazy. One of the first albums that I ever bought on eBay was this one.
Really?
On vinyl, yeah. I was like, I saw the video and I was like, maybe I can get the record of it. And I have, a first pressing of that record.
Wow.
Wilco, Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, another.
That's a great record. That is.
Beck, Sea Chains.
My favorite Beck album.
Flaming Lips. That's the Pink Robots.
Yeah, I love that record.
Eminem, the Eminem Show. What is this? Weezer Maladroit? Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's a terrible record. Yeah. Terrible record.
Missy Elliott Under Construction, the Queens of the Stone Age, Songs for the Deaf. NERD, In Search of. The Hives was number 10. Felix the House Cat, Sleater King.
That NERD, that record is good. I don't know if you're a hip hop fan, but I remember hearing that in the record store often. That's a good record.
Wasn't Pharrell in that band? Or yeah. So let's see, Jay-Z, Blueprint 2. Yeah, okay. Bruce Springsteen, The Rising.
Yeah,
which I feel that
post 9/11.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Tori Amos, Scarlet Walk, The Roots, Phrenology, The Streets, Original Pirate Material, Scarface, The Fix, DJ Shadow, Private Press, Bright Eyes Lifted, or The Story Is in Our Soil, Foo Fighters 1 by 1, Sigur Rós.
Foo Fighters?
A lot of your dad gave me this watch.
Yeah.
There you go. Drive By Truckers, Southern Rock Opera,
Perfect.
Pulp, We Love Life, Red Hot Chili Peppers, by the way, Coldplay, A Rush of Blood to the Head. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, this is the year of music 2002. I'm sorry. I think I said 2001. ELP, Fantastic Jam Damage. I'm not familiar with that. The Yeah Yeah Yeahs.
Mm.
Remember that, man? Remember that band that was
Yeah,
just
I remember that band being
yeah.
around. Yeah.
Moby 18, the soundtrack of our lives, behind the music. RJD2, Dead Ringer. Interpol, Turn on the Bright Lights. Ryan Adams, Demolition. Audio Slave. That was a pretty phenomenal album. Number 35, they said, is various artists MTV Road Rules. Don't Make Me Pull This Thing Over, Volume 1.
What
Uh,
is that?
it looks like it says it opens with Jimmy Eat World's Bleed American, closes with a tender Dear Jane postcard from the Get Up Kids. So that's all those sort of the emo kind of
Yeah.
thing, Taking Back Sunday. Steve Earle, Jerusalem, Cody Chestnut, The Headphone Masterpiece, Spoon, Kill the Moonlight, Super Furry Animals, Rings Around the World, Too Many DJs. Reissues of the year is Nirvana's self-titled, Pavement Slanted and Enchanted, Lux and Redux. That's 20 years old.
Gosh,
Um, Uncle Tupelo 89 to 93,
that's a great.
Orchestra,
That's really great.
Boa, various artists, 20 years of Discord. Ouch, dude, we're getting old. Uh, Singles of the year. Let me read these real quick. Uh, Mark Neely says the Interpol record was huge. I think that's definitely one. Represented another side of New York City sound than the Strokes. Surprised they ranked it so low. I think that's definitely one album that I think has aged very well. I think
Yeah.
that's one that has risen above quite a few of those titles that are on there. Um, Craig says I remember a lot of those albums, but I guess I was completely different listening speed, listening to a lot of 70s and 80s hard rock and metal with a heap of classic rock.
Yeah.
Um,
See, Craig and I were kind of.
yeah,
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
age.
We're. Yeah, I mean, we are. So, yeah, it's funny to hear him talk because, like, a lot of that stuff kind of mirrors what I was listening to at that time as well. Mark Neal also says, "Is This It is a perfect record?" Yeah, I mean, it really is. That's one of those albums that I could not change a note on. It's moody, it's rocking, it's just a great record. That album is just, it's a beautiful record too. The jacket, the sleeve, and just everything about that record is just absolutely perfect.
Um, I think I think it was a great time for music. I think people talk about there's no good music these days, right? It's not good like
You
back in
you
my
just got to
days.
poke around.
Just gotta
I
poke around. Yeah, you do.
I
And I think in
I hate I detest when people say, "Oh, there's no good music." It's like, I mean, do you just go around going like
yeah,
this? Like,
they listen
are
to the
you
same
really going to
albums.
listen to the same Billy Joel record for your entire life? Like, you're going to be perpetually 19 forever at 50? Come
Yep,
on.
yep. And that's I think and that was the one thing that Spin Magazine did for me was just sort of open my eyes to um, those under the radar bands. I don't know if it was Mark Neely that said about CMJ. Did you get CMJ when
Mm-hmm.
you were at the record store? Did you guys get that?
No.
We
Mm-mm.
had actually a list of we had a little chalkboard that we would do. Here's like the 10 new releases, and then we did like whatever the CMJ like top 5 was. We would always have those new
Okay.
releases and things like that. Um, so here are singles of the year. Number 1 was Eminem, Cleaning Out My Closet. Avril Lavigne, Complicated. Clips
Why'd you have to go and make things so No,
Clips Grindin'. I don't know who that is. Um,
the rapper.
yeah, it's a rapper. Yep, Neptunes.
Yeah,
Jimmy Eat World, The Middle.
that's
Nirv-
that's a good record.
Nirvana,
You
you're right.
Yeah, I remember
That was
that's
when
the
that box set
greatest.
came out. Yeah,
Yeah, you remember? Oh, that's just like a greatest hits or something.
yeah, it was whatever that box set was.
That was like the unearthed Kurt Cobain
Yep.
song or whatnot. Yeah,
Missy Elliott, Work It. The White Stripes, Fell in Love with a Girl. Nelly, Hot in Here. Ooh, this is sounding like now that's what I call music. The Rapture, House of the Jealous Lovers, Nappy Roots, Ah Nah, Angie Stone, Wish I Didn't Miss You, Felix the House Cat, Silver Screen Shower Scene, The Strokes Someday. Let's say they said that was the best tune. You think that's the best one, or you think it's Last Night?
yeah, I'm gonna stick with that.
Okay. The Hives, Hate to Say I Told You So. The Chemical Brothers, Star Guitar. NERD, Rockstar,
Yeah.
Oasis, Stop Crying Your Heart Out, LCD Sound System, Losing My Edge. That was a great one. Um, Red Hot Chili Peppers, By the Way, and the Vines. I wanna get free. I wanna get free. That was a tune
Those
too.
were- yeah.
That was a great one. So
I haven't listened to that first Vines album. That's their only record, isn't it? They just
they
had
have
that one
another one. They have
album.
another one. Yeah,
Do
there's
they?
another one. It's not that good.
No.
Here's some of the moody, the picture. You know how they do the fashion things, like I was
Are
talking
those
about.
cologne ads?
Basically, yeah. There's somebody with a Black Flag T-shirt on. So what's new is what's old is new again. Should we talk about?
You own loose
I know it's
nuts.
like 10:10. Do we want to keep talking about this? I mean, this show
I mean,
might go for a bit. Okay. I still got a
okay.
stack of stuff to talk about.
Okay.
So we'll just say, 2004, I really stopped reading Spin. I really wasn't into that. Really wasn't kind of into that kind of music. After that, I really wasn't looking at mainstream music. I started looking at classic rock stuff, and so for a little bit, I was sort of just kind of not really reading anything, right? And then I think Steve, we can talk about our love for Mojo magazine.
Mojo magazine, baby.
I got my Mojo working. So
Mr. Mojo Rising.
So and I think that's one thing we want to talk about too, is like you were talking about Barnes and Noble. It was so great to go to Barnes and Noble and you could just, there was that sort of music section that had, they'd have Guitar Player magazine, they'd have Acoustic Guitar Player, they'd have Jazz Times, they had Country Music Weekly, they had Mojo Prog, Uncut, The Word, they had Ugly Things at the couple that I went to. What else do they have? What else am I missing that was at the
Uncut? Did you say that?
I said Uncut, yeah, Uncut, The Word.
This is pre Shindig, so
Left of Center, No Depression. They had No Depression. Remember that?
Maximum Rock and Roll. You remember
Maximum
that?
Rock and Roll was there, but they, it was like a 4-foot section of just all music magazines, and it was just such
you
a.
You can spend $100 a month if you wanted to.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty easy too.
And I think that's one. And I think that's one thing that for me, magazines were like the first when I had to start making sort of budget cuts where I was like, okay, I'm spending too much money on stuff. Magazines were like the first thing to go. And looking back at them now, there was a lot of time that I spent looking at the magazines and sort of digesting the things. And I think Mojo, when I started reading Mojo, my head, Magnet, The Wire, Under the Radar was another one. Yep. There was just such good and it's hard to say, like, I mean, I don't even know what magazines are still around. Glad we had both Barnes and Noble and Borders across the street from one another, so I could spend days reading all the different magazines.
Borders was as expensive as can be. Like seriously, like you had to just be like losing control to go into Borders and drop some money. I remember their CDs were like $18 a pop, and Borders was insanely expensive.
Was never really a fan of. I mean, I got a few CDs here and there, and I would, I'd find stuff that. Was cool, but definitely was not a place that I would go looking for music.
No. They had a pretty great DVD selection, though. I remember that.
And it's cool because it's like, that was just a once. Do you remember like people would do like book signings? Did you guys have that where you were at? Like there were just people. I
mean, every now and then.
Yeah, I remember them doing that on a pretty regular basis. Like at least once a month, they would do something that was, somebody doing a book signing. So talk to me a little bit about Mojo. I've been talking a lot, Steve. So what happened when you discovered Mojo? How was what was the first one you discovered?
I don't remember if it was Mojo or it was Uncut, but it was an issue and I don't have it anymore, but it was one of those life-altering moments in music, if you will. It had Sid Vicious on the cover with him kind of winking and drinking a beer. It had a pink album or pink cover of the magazine, and it just said punk. and it was just about 200 pages, and from everything from the Ramones to the Damned to the Buzzcocks to Television to Blondie and everything in between. Elvis Costello and the Attractions, just everything that you could think of from that time. And it was just, I read that cover to cover. It had pictures in it, and I was quick to cut some of those out and kind of put them up on my wall and all that. I just absolutely fell head over heels for that, and that was kind of the start. And then you kind of got to see another magazine, and I still have this one. This came out in, when did this come out? I want to say June of 2005.
Okay.
So this was Pink
that's
Floyd.
Okay.
So yes, and this is all about prog. Wow. This is where I first learned about King Crimson.
Oh, King Crimson. Okay.
And Genesis and just all those bands. And I want to show you a couple of advertisements in here. I think these. No, that's not it. Stand by. But that had Hawkwind. I can't show you that picture because it's got. The
police will be.
But look at some of this stuff. You can't see it, but it's just
hold your chest.
Like Harvest. It's got some of those Harvest reissues, like Joy of a Toy. What else is on here? Edgar Broad. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's got all of that stuff on there. But yeah, and they ranked the top 50 prog bands of all time, or top 50 prog albums of all time. Just absolutely fantastic. Just completely. Oh, there's a DVD advertisement. When was the last time you saw one of those? But no, this was just so great. Aphrodite's Child was. Nice. So,
there you go.
Hey, yes,
open that back up. Or, I'm sorry, you've closed the page. Those are some great comps. So that Vertigo one, that's all I have. I showed that Legend of a Mind, I think, not too long ago. I might have or might not have showed that one. But yeah, that's awesome, dude. That stuff is, and these magazines were like, the one thing I can say about Mojo was when I started picking those ones up, and I'm sure you kind of felt the same thing. You would know nothing about any of the bands that were in there. Like,
I knew Pink Floyd, and that was it. And that was it.
Yeah, there would just be that little, that was the fishhook that brought you into that album. But like everything that you read in there was just stuff that was just you didn't know. And those magazines were, those special edition ones that they did. Those were, I didn't bring any of those ones up, but I did have a couple of those.
I got you covered. But those were. That one was $12.50. So
those special editions were always a little more expensive than the regular,
right?
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, and this was with Mojo, and especially I was a bigger Mojo fan than I was a bigger fan of Uncut. But you would read these cover to cover, and you always felt instantly cooler having purchased an English magazine. Like you kind of were one up on, maybe some of your peers or somebody else. But a couple of the other ones, these are all Led Zeppelin Mojo issues. Yep. That was right when the reunion happened.
And that cover mount was pretty fantastic on that last one you showed. That was the one that was like Heavy Nuggets, I think is what it was called, there was some really
exactly.
Yeah, see, those are some I don't. When are those from?
This one is, I think this one is from 2008 from the reunion, December of 2007.
Okay, so that one I definitely have.
This one here, this is great. This came with a garage rock called Instant Garage, and I'm sure I can find the track listing in here. This is June of 2003.
Okay, so that's way before I was before. Oh, Paste. Mark Neely's talking about Paste. I have a subscription to Paste. Paste and Relics. Those were two other ones I forgot about. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say Paste started doing. They had a CD, and then they also had a DVD. There was like a DVD mixtape.
Oh wow!
Like music videos and stuff like that. Yeah. Thanks for reminding me about that. Hey, Trevor's on American Songwriter, Fretboard Journal. Two that I still read. Late to the show. Sorry, you guys already brought those up. We definitely
that's okay.
We did not bring those two up. But you're right. Those are two other magazines that are just that was in that big section of things.
But you want to talk about something that again was life changing. Was this Instant Garage CD right here? You want to hear the track listing?
Hit me the track listing on that.
Kicks it off with the MC5, Kick Out the Jams. Electric Prunes, I Had Too Much to Dream Last Night. The Sonic, Psycho, what a great song. New York Dolls, Personality Crisis. The Readymen, Short and Bread. The Bush, To Die Alone. Jonathan Richman and the Modern Lovers, She Cracked. The Expression, Wasting My Time. Gil Bateman, Daddy Walked in Darkness. Love, Seven is, Seven is. Seven and Seven is, excuse me. Rocky and the Riddlers, Flash and Crash, She, Out of Reach. The Ramones, I Want to Be Your Boyfriend. The Kinks, Milk Cow Blues. Little John and the Monks, Black Winds, which is an awesome song. If you've never heard that, Little John and the Monks, Black Winds, an excellent tune. The Alarm Clocks, I heard this song today. It came up on my shuffle. No Reason to Complain. You familiar with that song?
I probably know it, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
So check that out as well. The Count Five with Psychotic Reaction. The Artisans with Trick Bag. Dean Carter with Jailhouse Rock. The Iguanas, Iggy Pop's first band. Again and Again, which is another great song. The Nazz, again, an amazing band. Open My Eyes, The Wailers with Dirty Robber, Paul Revere and the Raiders, Just Like Me, Bunker Hill, The Girl Can't Dance, Brave New World, Train Kept a Rollin', The Amboy Dukes, Baby Please Don't Go, The Rats Revenge, Part 2, The Mousetraps, Sometimes You Just Can't Win. I mean, this was something that I played that lived in my van my junior year. Like I played that just constantly. And the other thing about these is when you would get these, you would just read them cover to cover because there was just, I mean, you've got a huge article about the wonderful, amazing Nina Simone, and then you've got, this whole thing is written just about all these suburban gorillas. This is just all about these garage bands who had one single, and there's so much dedication and so much love put into these bands that maybe had 145 and that was it, and they house them on that record or on that CD that came with it. These are just absolutely fantastic. They warranted every single page, warranted reading. The Danny Warhol's advertised on the back.
Welcome to the Monkey House.
this was absolutely, I mean, one of those essential in my musical journeys early on.
So in 2006, I started working at a radio station, and I would just do the board operations, which is pretty much the way I could describe it. Is you just hold the steering wheel so the car doesn't go off the road, basically, for 8 hours or whatever. And there was a lot of times I would work on weekends and nights when I was the only one in the station. And that was sort of my opportunity to sit down with Mojo, and I would, in fact, read it cover to cover.
You had to. Everything would jump out at you.
Yeah, and I'll show you too. I pulled some CDs aside that I wanted to talk about, just stuff that I got turned on by Mojo. I did want to show you this. I don't know if you know who this guy is. Do you know who Todd Clark is? Remember Todd Clark, the Secret Cinema guy? I played you that song. Welcome to the Secret Cinema. He's in he's in that psychedelic Facebook page or whatever. But yeah, there he is. His reissue was they talked about it in this Mojo. So but yeah, I some of the bands that I got into because of Mojo, I'll show you these because these are sort of like you said, when you're reading like a British magazine, they were a little biased towards like British bands that were like,
to say the least.
That you were like, I got to check these bands out, things like that. But have you ever heard this one before? The Good, the Bad, and the Queen? So Damien Albarn, he was in Blur, in Gorillaz, the band Gorillaz.
Yeah.
This was sort of like a one-off. It's like him. What's the guy? Paul Simeon, the bass player for the Clash.
For the Clash, yeah.
There was a guy from the Verve, and then Fela Kuti's drummer, and they put out 2 albums.
Wow!
This one it's good. Like, it's really, if you like sort of the Gorillaz, like just that sort of the way that he sings, you'll definitely like this. So this was one that they really hyped this album. So this came out in 2007. Was one of my favorites. A band that is an older band that they always used to talk about in Mojo.
Nice.
Right? Like,
Yep.
how often do they talk about them? So, yeah, and I think it was just at the right time because this was when were these come out? 2006, right? So these were starting to get reissued, so they were talking about this was like an original one, but yeah, in 2006 they did the reissue campaign for a lot of the Can albums. So yeah, I really started getting into Can because of them. Probably, and oh, another album, right? This is another classic album that I really didn't know about until I read about Mojo, and you would just see it. It would always just pop up on lists. There's always somebody talking about Forever Changes on that. So that was sort of my introduction to Love, and of course, became one of my favorite bands just because this Forever Changes is just a phenomenal album. But
Absolutely.
I remember reading something. It was like Robert Plant had. I mean, it was like a Led
He
Zeppelin
said
like
something like Red Telephone was his favorite song or
yeah
something like
yeah.
that. Yeah. I remember
Um,
that.
and it was just like, oh, I should go seek this out. And it was, they'd be like, oh, Love, they were on Elektra, same label as the Doors, and what Brian McLean was the roadie for the Birds and stuff like that. So Love Forever Changes is probably one of my. This is I would say top 25. It's up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But they talked about that quite a bit. Here's two that I'm sure you probably don't know. Um, Goldfrapp. Were you
No, I know that record. I do know that record. I love that album.
do you have it on CD?
I no, I've streamed it a
To
bunch of
stream it?
times.
Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, it sounds and this is one of those ones that was like
It's super English, but I like it.
it was like Mojo Instant Classic, right? I think they even put that on there when this came out. Um, yeah, I couldn't I listened to the crap out of this album. And actually I
That
have
is English, isn't it?
oh
Or
yeah,
am I
yeah. She's
mistaken?
she's like
Yeah, yeah,
um it's Mute Records. So that's like
yeah,
the
yeah.
same thing that but I even this is
Oh wow.
that's a prized possession right there.
Look at that.
OG press import. This it has a sticker on it that says it was $80, but I can tell you I definitely didn't pay that. I paid way less than that. But yeah, Allison Goldfrapp is amazing. This is a phenomenal record.
Yeah.
But the other kind of stuff is more like synth
It's the
pop.
only
Yeah, like kind
yeah.
of dancey, whatever.
It's,
So
it's the only
uh,
one I've heard. But yeah, I think you posted that many, 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 many years ago
really,
somewhere. And I was like,
okay.
yeah, and I don't remember where, but I do remember you posting that many years ago, like I said, and kind of got me hip to it. I was like, oh, let's check this out.
And then this is another one that they just. Do you remember when this album came out?
I don't know what that is.
So this is Jarvis Cocker. He was in the band Pulp, and this is a solo record he did. And wow, just an phenomenal sort of. And actually, I got this from the record store that I worked at because we used to do this. What we would do is we would put a little U over the barcode that would make we would know it was used. So if somebody like tried to sell us their used CD that they bought from us, we knew that they got it for less. But yeah, it's like it got the promo punch. So this was probably the copy that we got at the store, and then we just put it on the shelf. This is a phenomenal record, Steve. Uh,
Yeah. Okay.
top album of I would say one of my favorite albums. There's a tune on here called Black Magic where um, he he covers Tommy James and the Shondells. Well, he samples it, I should say. Crimson and Clover, like that. Da,
Okay.
da, 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 da. Um, and man, it is an awesome. And there's a great tune on here called "Don't Let 'Em Waste Your Time." But this whole album it's a lot like that Stephen Malkmus album. Um, it's sort of like I don't want to say like sad dad record, but it's like it's sort of there. Like you can tell he's not a young guy anymore, and it's like he's sort of looking at the sort of at that next period of his life. So I would say, as far as how old Jarvis Cocker was when he wrote this album, I think I'm about the same age now. So it's listening to that now. It's kind of it's interesting to see. But there's some fun tracks on that, and of course, the connections that we make in the vinyl community. Uh, a good pal of mine hooked me up with this record. A long time ago. So
Very,
it's
very
probably
cool.
one of the most expensive records in my collection now, just because pretty rare. And it came out in, what was it, 2007 or whatever. So what is it, 2007? So nobody was buying records at that time. So um, yeah, there's another thing on here, but I don't think I don't want to show it just because I just want to keep it as, a friendly show. Um, but there's a really funny song on there. We'll just call it "Running the World," and you can YouTube it later, and it's a pretty awesome. It's a hidden track that's like a half an hour on the CD. At the very end, there's like a half an hour of dead air, and then that song. But they released it as a what? Steve, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm just gonna go for it. I'm just gonna go
It'll
for
be
it.
all right.
All right, here we go.
It'll be all right. Take the kitties out of the room for a second.
It'd be all right. I think I showed this on my YouTube channel anyhow.
Should say bad words.
It does say bad words, Steve.
Oh, I don't know.
Minglewood After Dark.
Well, per our conversation when we opened the show, I mean, this kind of is kind of in tune with what we're doing, right?
which is sort of move that
Well,
that way and that way.
ah,
Yeah. So they tried to make that be the number one song in like 2019 for Christmas. Like, read about it on Wikipedia. It's absolutely hilarious, but it's a really good song. It's still relevant to this day. So, but I love this album. It's probably one of my, again, this is a top album. And if it wasn't for Mojo,
okay.
I wouldn't have discovered it. So, Bad Words. Yeah. So I got that. Should we keep going? Should we just keep going, Steve?
I mean, I'm hip.
I'm hip to that. Okay. I'm gonna show this is the last of the music that I'm gonna show. This was another one that was in Mojo with Burt Jansch, The Black Swan. This came out on Drag City.
So I've got the Birthday album by him.
Okay.
Is that
Birthday
right?
Blues.
Birthday Blues. And you were like, yeah, that's not a good album to come in on. And I was like, yeah, because I didn't see like the attraction or the allure to it at all. I was like, all right, that's certainly an album.
Yeah, I mean it is a kind of a depressing album.
I mean, it has a dog on the front. I was like, hey, it's got a dog on the front. Maybe it's like, man, this is not good.
I mean, if you're into that, I'd say if you sort of listen to like his whole the rest of his catalog, then it's like then that album makes sense. Sort of where
is that like his blood on the tracks or something?
I wouldn't say that. No.
No.
The one you need to get is the one called L.A. Turnaround, which was produced by Mike Nesmith. That's the one you need to listen to.
Oh, okay,
So
yeah. I
I'll
that.
I'll hip you to that. So it's
Thank you.
Excuse me, little kind of country fried, has some pedal steel guitar in it. This one is also good. This is so there's a couple of tunes. You know who Beth Orton is? Have you heard of her before? So she sings sort of duets with him. But this I think you would like this. This is probably a good entry place for you there. I got this on vinyl too, but there's a few of his like kind of his best songs he sort of redoes. This is really his last album. Came out in 2006, and then he passed away.
Oh wow.
I want to say 2012 or 2013. So,
all right.
But yeah, Black Swan by Burt Jansch, definitely good. Yeah, Drag City. Oldies Radio says Ty Seagull's label. He has Ty Seagull, the new. He just announced another record. And then this is my last one, and I saw that was you were flipping through that prog one. This was in there. So do you like Sunvolt? Are you a fan of Sunvolt?
Yes, absolutely, okay. Of course.
What do you think about this one? Is this the album, or do you like other?
No, they're first records. Yeah,
The Trace. You like that one? Or
I mean, you just that okay. And yeah, and their most recent one too that came out.
Union. You like that one?
Yeah, I like Union.
Like the newest one.
No, hold on. No, Tracy. I mean, that's their first record. That's my favorite.
I feel like that has a Ron Wood song on it, isn't that? Doesn't he have like a cover of that on that one?
Of Ron,
like some.
Ron I can Wood feel song. The fire. That song?
No, I forget what it is offhand. It's eluding me at the moment.
Well, let's consult the
archives. So Sunvolt, this one, this is one, Mark, I know you talked about Paste Magazine. Paste was talking about this. Mojo was talking about this. I know that it was in CMJ. It was really highly critically acclaimed. I've since got this on vinyl. They did a deluxe edition. This was when do you remember the was it just called, what were they called? It was the dual discs. You remember when dual discs came out? You remember those? It was
Yeah,
like the CD.
I had God, what did I have? I had a Dave Matthews CD
Okay.
on that, and I had something else. Oh yeah, a Judas Priest,
Okay.
and they were both terrible.
I have.
That is the worst format ever.
Well, do you remember they would tell you like don't play it in your car stereo because it was
Yeah,
like
oh yeah,
it was a thicker. It was like a double
it would get
side.
stuck, and
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Um, so yeah,
yeah.
methamphetamine is a great track on here. Or I think you're talking about medication, or is it medication you're talking about, or is that on a different? Maybe that's on one of the earlier ones. I don't really
Maybe it
remember those
is.
songs offhand because I just kind of put those on my iPod,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then
Union is okay.
you
Union's all
like
right.
Union? Yeah, I
I mean,
saw
it's
them.
all
I saw
right.
them play. They played, and then they played a bunch of they played like Monkey Man, like Rolling Stones. They played Monkey Man.
Really?
That was like their closer. They played that song. But yeah, okay, yes. I mean the Trace is good. That was the follow up to this one. Do you have that one? Do you like that? I sort of like that one. That one has slow hearse on it. Feel like driving round in a
Yeah. There's.
slow hearse. He's an
Are
acquired
you a
taste.
bigger?
He's
Are
acquired
well?
taste. Yeah.
Are you a bigger Sunvolt fan or a bigger Wilco fan?
I have more Sunvolt than I have Wilco.
Yeah.
I've listened to both, but yeah.
I'm the same way. I'm the
Uh,
same way. Yeah, but Trace is great. I mean, that's. I'm trying to see what's. I'm trying to figure out what Ron Wood song. You got me kind of curious now.
is it? Hold on, I'll look at it up. Let me look at the
Is it on
internet.
Straightaway? No.
It's on either the first or the second album. Do, do, do,
Let's
do,
see.
do.
Everybody's going on this journey with us.
Let all
Oh yeah, okay. It is. Yeah, yeah.
Trace.
Mystifies Me, written by Ron
Mystify
Wood,
Me.
off of
That's it.
Trace.
Yep, that's it. Trace. That's the one. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. Trace is good. I think that I like
Trace is
Trace.
great.
I
Yeah.
mean, they're all. I don't have.
You have Straightaways.
I do have straightaways. I do have widestream tremolo. I don't. I have Trace. I have the first five. I don't have
Mm-hmm.
the American Central Dust. I don't have Honky
I don't
Tonk. I
either.
don't have Notes of Blue. I do have Union. And it looks like they
You,
have another album coming out here. 2021 already came out. Called Electro Melodier.
Electro Melodia, baby. That's the name of our record, Daddy.
Okay, so yeah, so here we are. We're reading a lot of Mojo. We're reading a lot of all that good stuff. We haven't talked about
The reigning King Supremian champion
Shindig.
Shindig.
So when Shindig came out, I this was this was something
That
else.
became my be all end all. That became
Okay,
Mojo. I hate to say it, the way that Mojo made Spin and Rolling Stone obsolete, Shindig made those magazines obsolete. That would be the one I would go and buy.
it was because it was so focused, right? Like it was like when you bought Mojo, they did talk about the older stuff. That was like the stuff that brought you into the album. Like, right. So let's think. Just pause real quick here, right? So that's you bought the album because of the Clash article. You bought the because of the Stooges. You bought it because the Beatles were on the cover, right? So, those were that was what really kind of drew you in. But then there was all that other stuff. But I think they presented it well. There was always that Last Night an Album Saved My Life, where it was like, here's some artist that was, and this is their album that they, were a big
Well,
fan of.
and that's what turned me on to the MC5 is Lemmy Kilmister did that, and he
Okay.
talked about Kick Out the Jams, and I was a
Okay.
big Motorhead fan, still am. And that's I went and bought Kick Out the Jams based on his rave review of it, saying this is the best album I've ever heard, blah 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 blah. And so that's I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean those and then the How to Buy, they would just do, here's this artist's complete discography, and then they just were like bam 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 bam, like this is their worst album, this is their best album, this is
And they were usually pretty spot on with that
yeah,
too. It was
exactly.
it was usually pretty right on point.
And I think that they filled a void for me that when you sort of know a lot of those bands and albums. So say for instance, you have all the Pink Floyd records, you have all the,
Mhm.
the Rolling Stones ones, you have all the big names ones. That was sort of like a way that you could discover something else that was, like we said with Spin, like where it was a little under the radar or a little obscure or whatever. There would be, hey, there's this guy, he has a reissue coming out. Let's write a little article about him.
But
But
that's where Shindig came in because they
yeah,
did that.
yeah,
They absolutely did that.
and they didn't stray from that. Like there was
No.
nothing, there was nothing after like 1972 in
Yeah.
any shindigs for probably like the first, I don't know, 50 issues that they released. But so yeah, I was really into them, and just looking at these, I mean, just the way that it was as expensive as Mojo, didn't have a cover mount, but the content was just phenomenal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was just, the advertisements that were in there were just for advertisements that like you, like you wanted. Like, oh, here's something for a reissue label. Okay, yeah, like what's in there, right? So big fan of that. So yeah, so I read this, and look, here you go. They even had their folk rock and country rock section. You know, there's Ian Matthews, member of Fairport Convention.
Yeah.
So, there's, I was a huge fan of this. But the problem was I was just buying too much. Like, so at that time I was reading Mojo. I would occasionally get Uncut. Usually that was like, I would buy it if like the cover mount looked good or whatever. Um, and then I was buying Shindig. So it was like, I was like dropping, $50 a month just on
Oh,
little,
like
well,
I said, it's
yeah.
easy to spin that. Yeah, it's easy.
And when at first Shindig, and I don't know if they still are or not, but they were monthly, right? So it was like every other
Mhm.
month, or they would do, this is November and December of 2008. So, but yeah, once these came around, I was really, because again, you wouldn't get an article about the 13th floor elevators, and like you would, but it wouldn't be to the level of what
It would just be a
this was.
blurb.
Yeah, exactly. So, what do you got? Did you bring some Shindigs at all? You got
Yeah,
okay,
no, I
okay,
left the shindigs
okay,
upstairs. I figured I would just kind of talk about these,
yeah,
but these are uncuts. We talked about kind of the special issues.
yeah.
This one's all about the small faces and later the faces. This is by Uncut. So is this?
The
This is
Kings.
the Kings.
Okay.
A couple of my favorites that I still go back to and reference. This one is absolutely great. Mojo did Zappa. This came
Oh
out in like
wow.
2010.
Uh-huh.
It's just a
What
hundred
is what is
percent
the cover price on that? Did I say like $20 or like $17?
1250.
12.50. Okay. Yeah, and those are like,
1250.
dude, you'll keep those and you'll keep those forever. Like they're just
Dude,
like,
it's the perfect reference.
right.
Speaking of which, I just ordered a. I'll show it next week. Um, Neil Young, again, same thing, 1250.
See, I didn't,
Uh,
I didn't get, I should, and I kind of regret that. Like I got a few of those. Like I have,
I will still buy those to this day. Like if they do a comprehensive. Now I will say this: they recycle a lot of stuff. There
oh, they
you
do.
go.
Okay. So this is
They,
the
oh,
uncut.
they do.
Yeah.
They do. They tend to like that Pink Floyd one that they have, like the
Yeah.
Ultimate Guide to Pink Floyd. I think they've released that 2 or 3 different
Oh,
times
no
over.
kidding. Okay.
So a lot of those, just be kind of wary if you already have a Pink Floyd. Obviously, not a whole lot's going on between now and then with the band,
Hmm.
so it may be kind of a moot point to go and buy it. But if they'll do like a retrospective on another band or something like that, like I think I've got a Velvet Underground one too upstairs, like that they put out right after Lou Reed passed.
Okay.
That I got. Those I'll usually always get, and they've since gone up. I think they're about $14 now, like you said,
Hmm.
or $14.99. So yeah, it's gone up a little bit. I'm not a monthly reader, but
Hmm.
if they cover something pretty extensively like they do, and it's something I really want or don't have,
Hmm.
then yeah, I'll usually pick it up.
And I remember there was something that happened with Shindig. I believe it was an issue that had Julie Driscoll on the front of it, and I had a lot more
Yes.
issues than I thought. I thought that I had maybe only had like maybe the first 20 or something like that, but I had a lot more than I realized when I was going through my magazines and things like
I
that.
think I think the Paul Revere and the Raiders issue is the earliest one that I have.
Okay.
I should have brought those, but
Yeah.
anyway.
But I just I know that they did something like they changed publishers, and then like they tried to release it they tried to release Shindig under a different name, and they were like,
I
we're
can't.
just
I
we're just
can't
gonna
buy them here.
yeah, we're gonna self-release or something. I can't remember what exactly happened. That would be
Yeah.
interesting to look that up. But I did get. I don't know if you remember. There was. So they would used to release an annual, and I had two of those. So it was like kind of like comic books where they would sort of do like a
Mhm.
best of on a hardback book. I had the first two.
Oh, cool.
I'll have to dig those out and show those. But I'll tell you what. Some of the two that absolutely blew my mind was this is the Witches' Hats and Painted Chariots, the Incredible String Band. Again, I know a band that's not you're not too fond of, but again, this is your prog one of just all about the Incredible String Band,
Oh my
and
goodness.
it's like and it's intense. Like it's well, how many pages are we looking at here? 105 pages, which is a lot. So she moved through the record fair. There's all the super rare like vinyl pressings and stuff like that. But yeah, this is I mean just the way that the layout where they're like they show the label and all that. I was just a huge fan of this, and I love these. Um, but one that this goes out to Uncle Bo because I think he may have a copy of this, but the U.S. '60s Garage Explosion, which man, this one is
That looks
again.
awesome.
And I did find, and one little thing that I had was, I did find a receipt from Paul's Compact Discs, which changed hands about three different times, and of course, they're now closed. But um, I bought two used
Where's
CDs
it?
for $16. I bought a Devendra Banhart album, $21. I bought a Joanna Newsom record, $24. You can tell that Sam was along with me, right? A copy of Shindig for $9. I got three 7 inches for 13.50, and an additional three 7 inches for 16.50. $100 out the door. Um, so
Signed, sealed, delivered. Didn't bat an eye.
those were the days, my friend. Um,
Nowadays, you're like me. You're like $15. Are you crazy?
yeah. So Odie Set Radio said everything you never wanted to know about the Incredible String Band, but now you do. I'm a fan of the
Yeah,
Incredible String Band. Oh, he deleted it.
Trevor.
Yeah, I said
Oh,
it. I said it. I said it before you deleted it. So
Trevor S said, "Yeah, Rolling Stone has been putting out the same Grateful Dead reissue for 30." Yeah,
they
and
have.
that's exactly right.
They have.
That's exactly right. They changed the cover around, but it's the same stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, and Steve, you showed me that Jimmy Buffett when I was in the grocery store, and they had a stack of
yeah,
them that was like on the newsstand. That was like,
yeah.
they knew that they were going to sell. They were going to sell those. So hey, the last thing I wanted to. Well, we got two more things I wanted to show. Two more magazines. Um, this was sort of I think short lived. I don't think they're still making these, but this thing was insane. This is Richard Morton Jack with Flashback. Do you remember this
Okay,
magazine?
I
Like
do. I had an issue of that. I don't recall what it was, but those were super. Those were $20, weren't they? 1995.
this was $9 at the record store.
Okay, I'm thinking of something else.
So, hey, hold on. What's in here? What's in this? What goodies do we have in here? Oh, would you look at that? That's a
What
Grateful
is
Dead
that?
sticker.
Look at that. You didn't even know
um,
you had it.
yeah. So Richard Morton Jack wrote. He did Endless Trip, which if you watch any of my YouTube videos, I might have talked about a time or two. There's you guys some advertisement for Shindig. I'm pretty sure I have all of
Beautiful.
those. Left Bank. There's the Electric Prunes, the Bee Gees, Mott the Hoople. I think
I
this is
wonder if
one
there's any back issues you can get a Shindig.
you can.
Second.
I was actually on their website, and it looks like they have some that are issues that you can get. So, um, like some of them are in print, some of them are whatever, but they're about $10 each or whatever. So,
That's not terrible.
and then the last thing I wanted to talk about. So we'll take the last 10 minutes here and just talk about that. Um, when I discovered Ugly Things, Man Oh Man was my life change. So this was the first one I ever picked up. And of course, this is how Sundays used to advertise before they sent you emails back in the day. Um, I got a good bit of these. I have that one, the Five Americans, Southwest Freight on Board. I'm sure you have that one. You know, with the sail of incense. You know that one, right?
Yeah.
Armageddon, The Maze. I have that one. And of course they have all the birds. Man, they really just they were like That was the first thing they just really did up was the Byrds all the time.
Is it Taj Mahal, first Taj Mahal record down there too?
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, that's a great record. We should talk
Yeah, oh
about
yeah,
that. Let's
yeah.
do like some blues rock. Let's talk about that. And I have a bunch of these too, like the Fort Worth teen scene. Do you remember those? Like these compilations, Norton Records. Are they still around? I remember.
I don't think so. I haven't seen those in forever.
I think like I think the owner guy passed away recently. When I say recently, it's probably been within a couple of years. But this was something I would do. I would always kind of go through these and I would highlight it if it would be like, hey, check out this compilation. And that would be sort of how I would discover them. But um, yeah, right now, I mean, the Ugly Things is the only thing that I get. This is a great comp too. Good for
Yeah,
what ails you. It's all the old timey. I'm a big fan of these kind of things, right? So, turn to the century music. It's the music of the
you showed me a
Meadows.
couple of those.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, this is one of my. This one is an amazing one. Um,
Now, admittedly, you had to turn me on to Ugly Things, and I
okay,
finally got the issue with Clear Lights.
yeah,
And it was one of those things. It was funny, and we're talking about a couple of weeks ago. Well, but shortly before Christmas. Yeah, there it is, right there. And it's literally one of those things. I thumbed through it, but everything kept jumping out at me, kind of a thing.
hmm
And that's one of those. There's so many advertisements in it for different records that all look amazing.
yeah,
So it was almost like cracking open an issue of Mojo for the
yeah.
first time. So it really was. It was a nice trip down memory lane, but of just again just different music that I've always seen and maybe haven't heard, or in some cases stuff I've never seen and never heard before. Like they have Robbie the Werewolf,
Yeah.
and you look at that cover, you're like, oh, that's got to be great. Look at that album cover.
DJ Trish says, "Hi guys."
Hello.
And Oldies Radio says, "I got the clear light." You should look up that Ugly Things issue. If you
Yes,
Oldies Radio,
seriously.
if you've never read an Ugly Things, this is an amazing one to start with.
Yeah.
Um, it will this magazine will absolutely I can without a shadow of a doubt it will blow your mind. There are things in here that you just I mean just even like the layout, the way that they do it, it's just phenomenal. And
I mean, they've got a 10-page spread on Clearlight, and an obscure band with one album.
that's the beauty about Ugly Things, right? So we talk about okay, so we have Spin Magazine, where we're very mainstream. Mojo, okay, here's this. They may talk about one thing in Spin, so we read Mojo, and then we get a large spread. And then Shindig does the same thing for the smaller thing. It's in, this is what Ugly Things does: is they take the band that released the 145, and they they tell their entire story. So we keep distilling it down all the way. But yeah. DJ Trish says, "Where do I go to subscribe for Mojo?" I don't know. I haven't bought Mojo in 12 years. I have
Yeah, it's been a
2000,
while since I've.
2010 was the last issue I bought. It was the Bob Dylan one, which they would have on the cover all the time. But um, yeah, I know that you can probably still get them at Barnes and Noble and Borders. I don't think is around anymore, right? So it's just Barnes and
Books a
Noble.
Million.
Um, but man, I think that again, the very first Ugly Things that I ever bought when I bought this one, I had really had no idea about some of the stuff that they were talking in. But at the same time, it was so interesting, and it really, the one thing that it made me do was really look at 45s. I know a lot of people don't really like buying 45s, but I would always sort of like just look for, because they would show that like this is what we're gonna put in there, right? It's just basically a picture of a 45. But their music reviews and everything, fantastic. They have, I would say the ones like the most recent Ugly Things. I think they do. We might have talked about some of the grapefruit stuff. Like they're now, I think they're twice a year now, or maybe three times a year. They definitely have decreased the size of the Ugly Things, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. I think they did. Let's just see. I know that some of the I went back and I read some of the older ones, and it was like, oh, here's all the grapefruit. They do CD reviews, they do book reviews, which show me a music magazine that does book reviews. I mean, I guess Mojo did it, right? They probably still do.
Yeah, every so often.
Yeah, so these are definitely worth picking up. I'm going to show two that Steve. I know this is the one this is your white whale, so I have to show it. Is the
MC5.
it's the
Yeah,
MC5 one
yeah.
with the Rob Tyner interview from a long time ago. So um, yeah, that one is fun. And if you like, again, if you like a lot of that weirdo fringe kind of music, that's what
I do like weirdo fringe music,
like
so yes.
psychobilly kind of like
Oh,
all those like weird subgenre kind of records. There's definitely something to find. This is one of my favorite. This is one of my favorite issues. Was the one about the move.
oh wow,
I
that was
wasn't.
awesome.
I wasn't a fan
Is
of
that
the
the
move.
Spades Rocky Erickson's
Uh,
first band?
yes, pre psychedelic
Very
adventures.
wow. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, and it got the Dave Clark Five in there too, which again is the band that really nobody really talks about anymore. I think they've sort of have dropped in their, you know, in their standing. I know that they were huge back in the day, but um, yeah, there's a lot of really fun stuff in here. I'm going to show the one too that I just have to show this last one, and this will be my last one I'll show. Um, this one is very special to me. So this is summer of 2015, and this is so when I was doing the Glass Orchid zine. Um, I sort of just put my big boy pants on and I sent an email to uh, Mike Stacks and I was like, "Hey, I got this story," and he was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll publish it." So
Hey, you didn't tell me that.
you didn't know that? I thought I told you that. Yeah. So this is the
No, you told me that guy did that ripped your podcast did a podcast and ripped you off. But
yeah
is that where he got it from?
no, I mean I'd sent him the first zine and yeah, I'd sent him the first zine and then he sort of was like just kind of read it as whatever because I posted all this stuff on YouTube. Like the album wasn't on YouTube, so I posted all the tracks on YouTube, and then he sort of just kind of lifted it. But yeah, that's my one of the crowning moments, and this came out right when Fairly Well was. So it was like I went to a place that was in Toledo. What's it called? Um, Not Omega Music. That's in Dayton. Culture Clash and they had a stack of these, well, they had like three or four, right? So I went in and I just like signed my name in it. So that was my sort
Did
of.
you keep your sunglasses on the entire time when
I
you were in
didn't.
there and didn't talk to? Oh,
I didn't.
could have played this up. That's your one and only time.
Yep. So that's that. So Uncle Bo gets a shout out in there too. So if you're uh,
Hey,
good old Jerry,
very
Jerry
cool.
got
Yeah.
Jerry got a shout out as well too. So, but that's that. So that was sort of one of my and of course
What issue is that?
that's issue number 39 if you're interested. Spring
Man.
summer 2015. I don't have any more copies left because I got all my comp copies. I released into the wild. So yeah. So if you wanna, I think they still have back issues. I think you might even be able to get them through Bomp Records if you can't find them on Ugly Things website. So, but that's that. That's music magazines. That's I know one of my first YouTube videos I did. I talked about music magazines too, so I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna watch that before I go to bed here. But that's that, man. What would we do if we didn't have music magazines?
I know a lot less. That's for darn sure.
Yeah. So cool, man. Is that it? Are you spent?
I am spent, but let's do another 2 hours. Let's go.
It's the telethon. Let's go. Let's start raising money. So
raising money to buy more music magazines.
yeah, but the funny thing is, I just haven't really bought them.
Well, nothing's. There's hardly any physical print anymore. You go to Barnes and Nobles or Books A Million. I went there a while ago now. It's probably around Christmas time, but there was hardly any magazines there to purchase. I mean, you had your your names, your staples there and things like that. But as far as like the music magazines, it used to kind of take up a couple of rows or whatnot, and it's kind of shrink down
it was
significantly.
It was easily a 4-foot section, 6 foot high, 4-foot section. You know what I mean?
and that's drastically shrunk. And I would assume that other genres and things like that of magazines, if you will, are
Yeah.
done the same. So yeah, it's tough to find them, man. It's tough. You almost have to go to a local record store or kind of an indie shop of some sort in order to find something like that. But there's the Ugly Things website. There's
Yeah.
there's ways. If you search around hard enough, there's ways to get them.
I think that in Ugly Things they do offer a subscription, which I mean it's all right. I mean at the end of the day you end up paying about $17 for an issue just because you pay the cover price and then they ship it to you in like a priority envelope, right? So it's like the shipping is, based on how far it's coming from California. So if you live closer to California, it might be cheaper than what it is here on the East Coast. But somebody who understands the post office can probably explain that better than I can. But yeah, so it's one of those things that and again, if you buy it online through Bomp or whatever the case may be, you're still going to pay $4 or $5 for shipping. So I do that just because it saves me a trip, and then it doesn't, I don't have to worry about, oh, it's out, I got to go get it, and I go to the shop and they don't have it, and I end up buying, something else instead. But yeah, Ugly Things is if you really like 60s music. Now they do kind of go into the 70s and things like that, but they have recently really been, I think, like the last couple. um, Steve, I know I showed you this one, which was about Bunny Carlos.
Bunny Carlos.
Yeah, they talked about
Yeah.
them, and the Magic Fern, which was, I believe it. I didn't. I got to read this one again, but I'm pretty sure they were like a San Francisco band that they sort of were like at the end of that like 1966 Beau Brummels kind of thing, and then like right before the Grateful Dead, and I think they played with them a little bit, so they were kind of on that same circuit that the Dead were. So,
Okay.
but that's that. So 11 o'clock. I think we'll sign off here. Thank you guys for
Sounds
another
good.
great show.
Yeah.
It's always
Very cool.
it's always awesome to chat with y'all. So thanks for stopping by. So
Well, thank you. It's been a lot of fun, man.
we'll see you. Sports truly.
Sports truly.
Over and out. If I can stop us. We're not done yet. We're not done yet.
Oh, oh.